The later years of the Beatles were fraught with tension. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr had been collaborating since 1962, but artistic differences began to surface after their 1966 retirement from touring. As they spent more time experimenting in the studio, disagreements arose. The recording sessions for 1968's The White Album were particularly contentious, leading Ringo to temporarily leave the band during the recording of Back in the USSR. Reflecting on that period, Paul admitted, "There was a lot of friction during that album. We were just about to break up, and that was tense in itself," he added. John later commented, "The breakup of the Beatles can be heard on that album." Despite these challenges, the Beatles regrouped in January 1969 for their next project, initially titled Get Back, the Liverpool Echo reported. Paul proposed that the band return to their rock and roll roots and perform live again, a departure from their decision to retire from touring in 1966. They gathered at Twickenham Film Studios in London to prepare and record a new album. The plan was to film their rehearsals for a TV special to mark their return to live performances. However, things didn't go as planned. In the Beatles' diary, Barry Miles penned, "It was a disaster. They were still exhausted from the marathon The Beatles, the White Album sessions. Paul bossed George around. George was moody and resentful. John would not even go to the bathroom without Yoko at his side. The tension was palpable, and it was all being caught on film." During their time at Twickenham, George reached his breaking point, storming out of the studio and announcing his departure from the Beatles, completely exasperated by the group's internal tensions and his diminished role. Michael Lindsay Hogg, who was directing the TV special, remembered that George left after they broke for lunch on January 10, 1969. John, a person who reacted aggressively to provocation, immediately said, "Let's get in Eric Clapton. He's just as good and not such a headache." Paul and Ringo would not be drawn in, and after lunch we went back to the studio where Paul, John, and Ringo improvised a ferocious riff, half an hour of anger and frustration expressed with guitars and drums. Yoko sat on the edge of the rostrum on the blue cushion which had been George's and howled into his mic. Ringo Starr reminisced about a tense moment in the Beatles' history, saying, "George left because Paul and he were having a heated discussion. They weren't getting on that day, and George decided to leave, but he didn't tell John or me or Paul." He added, "There'd been some tension going down in the morning, and arguments would go on anyway, so none of us realized until we went to lunch that George had gone home. When we came back, he still wasn't there, so we started jamming violently."